I'm a 27-year-old woman and I have a younger sister who's 25. Growing up, we were close, but there was always this weird edge to our relationship, a mix of love and constant, low-key competition. She's always been the quirky one in the family, and I've been the responsible one. That dynamic bled into everything we did, even our family's over-the-top birthday traditions. Let me explain, in our house, birthdays were a big deal. Everyone went all out with gifts, thoughtful, extravagant, you name it. It was almost like an unspoken contest to see who could give the most impressive present. Except for my sister. Her gifts to me were always underwhelming, and not in a she's struggling financially kind of way. They were more like the kind of thing you'd grab from a dollar store clearance bin 5 minutes before the party started. She called it her quirky humor, and everyone else just laughed it off. I didn't. It wasn't like I was expecting diamonds or anything, but I always put effort into her gifts. One year, I saved up to get her a custom necklace with her favorite gemstone. It set me back around $200. Meanwhile, she gave me a $3 coffee mug with, "I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong" scrawled on it. Another time, I got her this limited edition art print she'd been raving about, and she gave me a pack of mismatched socks. It wasn't even about the money, it was the lack of thought. Every time I smiled and said thank you, but inside it was starting to sting. My parents always had an excuse for her. "She's just artistic, honey," or "that's just her way of showing love." I heard those lines so many times, I could practically recite them in my sleep. The truth was, she wasn't quirky. She just didn't care enough to try. And maybe that would have been fine if she wasn't so specific about the things she wanted for herself. There's this designer handbag she's obsessed with. It's $2,000, way out of reach for most people, but she talks about it like it's her life's goal. She posts about it all the time, saves photos of it to her Pinterest boards, and even told me once that she was manifesting it. She'd say she was saving up for it, but then she'd blow her money on other stuff, concert tickets, new clothes, and gadgets she didn't need. It was like this weird running joke in our family. "Oh, that's the bag she'll never buy." This year, things changed for me. I got a huge bonus at work, a reward for months of late nights and stress. For the first time in a long time, I had money to splurge, so I decided to treat myself. I went to the mall, wandered into the fancy stores I usually avoided, and there it was, her bag. The same one she's been dreaming about. I wasn't even planning to buy it, but something about it felt right, like a way to celebrate my hard work and finally put myself first. So I bought it. It was an impulsive decision, but the moment I walked out with that bag, I felt this weird mix of triumph and guilt. I kept telling myself it wasn't about her. I didn't buy it to spite her. I bought it because I wanted it. Still, I couldn't shake the thought of how she'd react if she found out. Fast forward to my birthday. My sister shows up late, as usual, and hands me her gift, a second-hand keychain. The latch was broken. She didn't even try to hide it. She laughed and said, "It reminded me of you." I didn't laugh back. I just thanked her, set it aside, and moved on with the party. But something inside me snapped. All those years of being brushed off and made to feel like I didn't matter. It was too much. The next day, I posted a picture of the bag on Instagram. Nothing dramatic, just a casual shot of me holding it with a caption about treating myself. But I tagged her in the photo, just subtle enough to make her notice. It didn't take long. Within minutes, I got a text. "Why do you have my dream bag?" That's when everything started to spiral. Update 1. The moment the text popped up on my phone, "Why do you have my dream bag?" I knew my sister wasn't just annoyed. She was livid. Before I could even think about replying, my phone started ringing. It was her. I picked up, and she didn't even give me time to say hello. Her voice was sharp, and she jumped straight into it. She wanted to know what my problem was, why I would do something so hurtful, and how I could have the audacity to buy her dream bag. I kept my voice calm and steady. I told her it wasn't about her. I bought the bag for myself because I liked it and wanted to treat myself. But that explanation didn't sit well with her. She accused me of being selfish, rubbing it in her face, and stealing something she'd been talking about for years. I reminded her that I didn't owe her anything and that she'd had plenty of time to buy it herself. The call ended abruptly, but that wasn't the end of it. Within an hour, my parents were on the phone. They had heard all about the bag situation from my sister, and they weren't happy. My mom's tone was almost apologetic at first, but it didn't take long for the guilt tripping to start. She said it looked bad for me to buy something my sister had always wanted, especially since I knew how much she cared about it. My dad chimed in, saying it wouldn't hurt to let her have it as a kind gesture. I stood my ground. I told them about all the cheap, thoughtless gifts she had given me over the years, and how I'd never complained or made a big deal out of it. I pointed out how I had always gone out of my way to give her meaningful, expensive gifts, and she had never once put in the same effort for me. Their response? That's just how she is. I felt my frustration rising but stayed calm. I explained that the bag wasn't about her. It was something I bought for myself with my own money, and I didn't owe her any explanations. My parents didn't like that answer. They told me I was being stubborn and petty, and that family relationships were more important than material things. Things only escalated from there. My sister started posting about it on Instagram. She didn't name me directly, but it was obvious who she was talking about. One post had a picture of the bag with the caption, "Imagine buying this just to hurt someone you're supposed to care about." Another said, "Some people really don't understand how to be a decent sibling." At first, I ignored it. I figured she'd vent and then move on. But then mutual friends started messaging me asking why I would do something so cruel. One even sent me a screenshot of her story. She was painting herself as the victim, saying that I bought the bag out of spite to ruin her dream. I felt isolated. No one seemed to care about my side of the story. But then something unexpected happened. My coworkers started noticing the bag. A few of them complimented it, asking where I got it and saying how beautiful it was. For a brief moment, I felt a little lighter. It reminded me why I bought it in the first place, to celebrate my hard work and treat myself. But my sister wasn't done. She sent me a long text that night, filled with dramatic phrases about betrayal and how she'd never forgive me for this. She ended it with something along the lines of, "I hope you're happy ruining my dream." I didn't reply. The next day, my mom called again, this time with a compromise. She suggested I give the bag to my sister as a peace offering. I could almost hear her trying to make it sound reasonable, but I wasn't having it. I told her no, and that I wasn't going to reward my sister's entitlement. My mom sighed and said I was being difficult. Meanwhile, my sister doubled down on her social media posts. The passive aggressiveness turned into outright hostility. She even posted a screenshot of our text messages, carefully cropping out anything that made her look bad. She added a caption about how she was done being disrespected. More messages rolled in from mutual friends. Some were genuinely confused, asking for my side of the story. Others just told me to apologize and give her the bag to keep the peace. One friend even said I was being cruel for holding on to something that would mean the world to her. But I wasn't budging. The bag was mine. It wasn't about her, no matter how much she tried to make it seem that way. By the end of the week, I'd had enough of the drama. I blocked her on social media to stop seeing the constant posts. That didn't stop her from texting me, though. Every message was a variation of the same thing: guilt tripping, emotional manipulation, and demands for the bag. It felt like everyone was against me, my sister, my parents, even some of our friends. But I wasn't going to cave. For the first time in years, I was putting myself first, and I wasn't going to let her take that away from me. Update 2. I didn't want to go to the family dinner. After everything that had happened, I knew it wasn't going to be a pleasant evening, but skipping it would have only added fuel to the fire, and my parents made it clear they expected me to be there. So I went, dreading every second leading up to it. When I arrived, the tension was already thick. My sister was sitting at the far end of the table, scrolling on her phone, avoiding eye contact with me. She didn't say hello or even acknowledge me, which wasn't a surprise. My parents, on the other hand, greeted me with strained smiles. It was obvious they were trying to keep things civil, but the unease was palpable. We started eating, and for a while, everyone pretended like everything was normal. Small talk about work, the weather, and my cousin's upcoming wedding filled the air. But it didn't last long. My dad set his fork down and cleared his throat. "We need to talk about this bag situation," he announced, breaking the silence. I looked up, but my sister kept her head down, stabbing at her salad. My mom gave me a pleading look, as if I was the one who needed to make this right. I calmly explained, again, that it was my purchase, my money, and my decision. I didn't see why it required anyone else's approval. That's when my sister finally spoke up. Her voice cracked and she burst into tears. She said she'd always felt overshadowed by me, that I'd taken something she'd dreamed about for years just to make her feel small. She accused me of flaunting my financial success to rub her struggles in her face. She didn't hold back, listing every perceived slight I'd ever committed against her, all tied back to this one designer bag. I waited for her to finish before pointing out the facts. She'd had plenty of time to save up for the bag if it was so important to her, but instead she'd spent her money on other things: trendy clothes, concert tickets, expensive dinners with friends. I reminded her that I had worked hard for my money and that this purchase wasn't about her at all. It was a reward for myself, and I wasn't going to apologize for that. My parents didn't like that response. They said I was being harsh and that I should consider how my actions affected my sister. My mom chimed in, saying family relationships should come before material possessions. My dad agreed, telling me to apologize and find a way to make things right. That's when I asked a question I'd been holding back for years. I asked if they had ever pressured my sister to reciprocate my thoughtful birthday gifts. I brought up the necklace, the art print, and countless other times I'd gone out of my way to make her feel special, only to receive dollar store trinkets and secondhand keychains in return. My mom shifted uncomfortably, saying it was different because my sister was younger and not as financially stable. My dad added that she had a more artistic way of expressing herself, as if that excused everything. The room went silent after that. My sister stormed out, muttering something about how I was toxic and impossible to deal with. My parents didn't try to stop her. My mom just sighed and told me that I should have handled things differently. My dad shook his head, clearly disappointed. I finished my meal in silence and left as soon as I could. But the drama didn't end there. By the next morning, the rest of the family had heard about the argument. My sister wasted no time spreading her version of events, conveniently leaving out the years of one-sided gift-giving and entitlement. My phone started buzzing with messages from relatives, most of them siding with her. One cousin sent me a long message about how family should always come first and how giving her the bag could be a gesture of love that might repair the relationship. I didn't respond. Another cousin, to my surprise, said she thought I was in the right and that my sister needed to grow up. Still, the overwhelming majority painted me as the villain. I decided it was time to take a step back. I limited contact with my parents and ignored most of the messages from relatives. I needed space from the constant guilt-tripping and drama. My sister had made it clear that she wasn't interested in seeing things from my perspective, and my parents were too busy trying to keep the peace to hold her accountable. For now, I'm keeping my distance. The bag drama might have started as a small disagreement, but it's turned into something much bigger, a spotlight on years of unequal treatment and unspoken resentment. I'm not sure where things will go from here, but one thing's certain: I'm done being the only one expected to compromise. Update 3. The fallout reached a new level when my sister took the drama to the next logical place, social media. She posted a lengthy Instagram story, complete with dramatic captions, carefully chosen emojis, and a curated narrative that painted me as the villain. She called me a greedy sibling who bought her dream bag out of spite and accused me of deliberately crushing her dream. There were even screenshots of text exchanges, of course, cropped to make her look like the victim, and a photo of the bag with a caption about how it symbolized everything wrong with certain people. At first, I rolled my eyes and tried to brush it off, but her story started gaining traction. Friends of friends were commenting, strangers were chiming in, and before I knew it, the post had gone semi-viral within her circle. I started getting messages from random people, calling me petty, selfish, and worse. Some even tagged me in their replies to her story, adding fuel to the fire. It didn't take long for the hate to get overwhelming. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications, each one a reminder of how quickly a narrative can spiral out of control. I thought about posting my side of the story, laying out the years of one-sided gift giving, the entitled attitude, and the truth behind why I bought the bag. I even drafted a long post, complete with receipts literal and metaphorical, but I deleted it before hitting send. Feeding into the drama wouldn't solve anything. Instead, I vented to a close friend who had been following the situation from the start. She listened patiently, then gave me the best advice I'd heard in weeks. Ignore the noise. She reminded me that most of the people piling on didn't know the full story and probably didn't care to. Engaging would only make things worse. So, I tried to move on. I kept using the bag, refusing to let the drama dictate my choices. At work, my coworkers continued to compliment it, completely oblivious to the chaos happening behind the scenes. Those small moments of normalcy helped more than I expected. But my sister wasn't letting it go. She ramped up her campaign, pushing my parents to intervene further. They called me again, asking if I'd reconsider attending a family meeting to resolve the issue. I declined, telling them I was done explaining myself. My mom sighed, saying my refusal was only making things harder for everyone. My dad suggested I just let her have the bag to put an end to the fighting. I firmly said no and ended the call. That's when my sister tried a new tactic. She started sending me long, emotional messages about how the bag reminded her of everything she's ever failed at. She painted it as a symbol of all the times she'd come up short and how it crushed her to see me with it. I didn't respond. I deleted each message as soon as it came in, refusing to engage. A mutual friend reached out, trying to mediate. She suggested my sister save up for the bag herself instead of expecting me to hand it over. When the friend relayed this suggestion, my sister's response was predictable. She claimed she couldn't afford it and deserved the bag as compensation for the emotional harm I'd caused her. The friend admitted she was frustrated with my sister's entitlement but said there wasn't much else she could do to mediate. Surprisingly, a few mutual friends started quietly expressing support for me. One sent me a private message saying she'd seen through my sister's posts and thought the whole thing was ridiculous. Another told me she'd been on the receiving end of my sister's selfishness before and wasn't surprised by her behavior. Those messages didn't erase the public hate I'd received, but they helped me feel less isolated. After yet another passive-aggressive social media post from my sister, I decided enough was enough. I blocked her on all platforms. It felt like a necessary step to protect my peace, even if it would probably escalate things further. A week later, I found out just how far my sister was willing to go. A coworker sent me a link to a GoFundMe campaign she had started, titled something like "Help Me Finally Achieve My Dream." The description was as melodramatic as you'd expect, filled with vague references to a greedy sibling who had wronged her. The goal amount was $2,000, the exact price of the bag. The campaign had only raised a few $100s by the time I saw it, mostly from extended family and her friends. Some of the comments were downright ridiculous, talking about how they hoped she'd finally find happiness and overcome this cruel injustice. One relative even tagged me, writing, "I hope you're happy now." I considered reporting the campaign for spreading misinformation, but ultimately I decided it wasn't worth the effort. Watching her resort to crowdfunding for something she could have saved for herself felt like validation in its own way. I forwarded the link to the mutual friend who had tried mediating, and her response was a mix of disbelief and laughter. For now, I'm staying out of it. If my sister wants to turn a handbag into the hill she dies on, that's her choice. But I've made mine, and I'm not budging. Update 4. The GoFundMe was gaining traction, though not in the way my sister probably hoped. By the time I checked again, it had raised about $400. Most of the contributions were from our extended family, with supportive comments like, "Keep chasing your dreams," and "We believe in you." It was both ridiculous and exhausting to watch. One of my coworkers sent me the link, asking if it was real. They'd stumbled across it through a friend of a friend and recognized my sister's name. The campaign's description was carefully worded, but anyone who knew the story could tell who it was about. It painted me as a privileged sibling who'd taken her dream away out of spite, though she never mentioned me by name. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or scream. On one hand, it was almost comical how far she was taking this. On the other, seeing her twist the narrative to get sympathy and money was infuriating. I considered reporting the campaign, but I decided against it. Drawing more attention to it wasn't worth it. Then, out of nowhere, my sister sent me a message. After all the blocking and ignoring, she found a way to contact me. She asked me to promote her GoFundMe on my social media to help her reach her goal. I didn't even bother responding. The sheer entitlement was beyond anything I'd seen from her before. My refusal to engage set off another wave of family drama. My parents called, asking why I couldn't just help her out. They argued that it wasn't a big deal to share the link, especially since she clearly cared so much about the bag. I told them I was done entertaining the topic. If they wanted to support her, that was their choice, but I wasn't going to be part of it. Not long after, I received a surprising message from a distant relative. They apologized for contributing to the GoFundMe and said they'd realized they were enabling my sister's behavior. They admitted that my sister had a history of making herself out to be a victim, and that this situation had finally made them see it. It was a small win, but it felt significant. Despite her best efforts, the GoFundMe didn't take off the way my sister probably expected. After 2 weeks, it stalled out at just under $600. Family members who had contributed stopped sharing the link, and strangers lost interest. She deleted the campaign quietly, without fanfare or explanation. With the GoFundMe behind us, I noticed a shift in the family dynamics. Some relatives who had been firmly on my sister's side started questioning her actions.